Ramkissoon, and this is Esther Lamneck. She plays both the taragato, which is an ancient instrument from the Middle East.
Hungary.
Hungary.
Mine is from Hungary.
And the clarinet, of course. And this is an amazing conjunction of talent and technology. And we thought it'd be interesting for you to have them explain what they're doing and how it works. Maybe you'll all give up whatever you're doing and just start doing this.
We're so happy to be here, and I'm so delighted to introduce Izzi Ramkissoon, without whom I could not do this show for you. But first I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure Izzi would like to know as well, are you all composers? Are you all composers, the masterclass students? And how many of you play an instrument? What could you go through the room and let me know what you play?
Cello, piano,
Violin?
Sorry?
Violin.
Oh, violin. Okay, and trumpet. So are you a composer also?
Yes,
a video
and a
person?
pianist too.
And what is your instrument?
Piano.
Piano as well.
Yes.
So we have a lot of pianists. So I don't know, Harry, should we maybe close the door?
Okay, sure.
And I thought what we do is to really jump into the technology aspect of what the show is going to be, so you could have some understanding of that. And I would suggest that you students, well, see, why don't we play DA first? Okay. And then you can explain it, and then we can have a guinea pig. And so we need to have the lights out for this. We'll need to go to the start. Sorry for the music stands, we won't have them in there tonight. I need to get these mics over here. They turn the sound to have That's heavy. Okay. We usually play in a dark hall, but this is your darkest hall, so let's imagine you can actually see the screen.
I'll just fade down.
Jake.
Jake?
Yep.
Before we have Jake come around up and play with this, why don't you students gather around Izzy's board and let Izzy talk to you about what he's doing and what he did to create it. Why not? Come and see. Do any of you work with computer programs or assembly? Great. Which program are you working in?
Logic.
Okay. Anybody else working in computer programs? What are you working in?
Logic, and I have a lot of custom software.
Wonderful.
From like 10 years ago, it's all done in OS9, like Curtis Rhodes Cloud Generator, and other granulators.
Great.
So, yeah,
Well,
continue.
okay, can we find out what you do, what you work in?
I work with him, actually.
Okay,
I work in
great.
Sonar.
Terrific. Anybody else, computer programs? So, Izzy will explain everything. Let him take over.
So a little bit about this piece. This piece is created in Max MSP and Jitter, and it's a really flexible platform for creating interactive music and creating relationships. Anyone familiar here with Max MSP Jitter? Okay. So for everyone who doesn't know that, it's a graphical object-oriented programming environment where you could really just, when you open the screen for the first time, it's a blank slate. And you really have to plug in the objects or these little blocks or units of program, and you can connect them to each other in any specific way you want, you know? So it's really customizable in that form, and it's open to, you know, develop a program such as this in a unique way to create relationships. Within the program, you can see the visuals on the screen, and that's all linked to the microphone input. So the microphone is being inputted into my sound card, and I'm taking that audio signal and I'm basically analyzing it in real time. Mapping amplitude to some of these actions with the visuals as they pop out of the screen. So they're coming out of the darkness, and that was really important to me. Some of these fractured kind of motives that were happening with the visuals. Amplitude's also mapped to, so the louder it gets, it starts to fracture out more out of the screen. Also, I'm pitch tracking the clarinet, and I'm using the bottom three partials to control rotation, XYZ rotation. So depending on the pitch, if Esther pulls out a pitch, it can maintain a position in the XYZ plane. And I'm using OpenGL to produce the visuals. So those are interactions and relationships that I'm forming within the piece. There's also this processing that happens real time. So it's a little bit kind of, gritty sound with this kind of synthesis that's happening. And I was really interested in that to make the clarinet speak more as, this raw kind of Jimi Hendrix kind of idea. And at the time I was listening to a lot of different music, including a lot of new music. And this is kind of where that piece came from. The piece is called Domesticated Animalia because it was created maybe about 2 years ago when there were some of those news stories where a monkey ripped off the face of its owner, and anybody remember that? 2 years ago there was like this incident with a monkey, and then like right after that there was like another incident with some sort of dog attacking the owner, and both of them were trying to treat the animals like, human beings, but these are animals and they don't want to be domesticated. And at the time, I kind of was really like hooking onto those stories about, somebody who's in like, a world and, certain restraints on you, and then, you kind of, have to work through those restraints. So within this piece, you see a bird on the screen. Esther loves this bird.
Yes.
And really, when working with Esther, it really, really made the piece because all of the kind of gestures that you see in this piece, it's event-based and it goes from one state to the next state to the next state. It's really inspired by Esther's playing. And also Esther helped shape the piece as well with the visuals, because when I put on the screen for the first time this bird, she was like, "What is that bird?" And it was like so exciting, and we started developing out this bird motif. And the bird that you see on the screen is this lyre bird, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with that bird, but basically it could imitate anything within its environment. And that to me was creating the foundation of the piece because it uses so many different sounds to kind of put, Esther in this situation where she's surrounded by all these environmental sounds and be able to work through the piece while listening to the piece and interacting with all the elements at play that are all variables at the time. So the variables become the construct of what is the same, and Esther's playing is the thing that kind of moves through her personality, moves through this piece in the way she needs to approach some of these situations she gets put in, So that's like kind of a little bit of the history behind where this piece is coming from with me, the theme behind, the idea of a domesticated animal, this lyre bird who wants to just fracture out and burst out of the screen at times, and just producing like a body for Esther's sound, the clarinet. So the clarinet is created visually through this bird, and at points you hear within the electronic score, you hear bird motives and line motives, and those are registers that are cue points. So you can hear, as Esther's working through the piece, birds come in and she mimics these birds, and this is also part of the music I was listening to at the time, Hessian. And I was thinking about birdsong, but birdsong in a very different way, in a literal sense, where, this bird can mimic other birds, and this is also a trait of the lyre bird. They could imitate other birds' mating calls. So, if there's another bird in the vicinity, it could imitate that mating call and maybe attract other birds that it wouldn't necessarily do. But also chainsaws. It has that flexibility to imitate chainsaws. Yeah, if you look this up, you'll hear a bird making chainsaw noises. This sweet bird, but chainsaw noises coming out of the bird. So it also shows like this kind of duality of the instrument, which is the clarinet. It can be like a chainsaw, but then it could also be so sweet within this lyrical setting of a bird song, you know? And those were like the two kind of elements I was really interested in paralleling and giving a performer a chance to work within. So there are those parameters that are in play when you play the piece, and I have like, you know, kind of like instructions and a setup that I usually do, which is that before a person plays the song so they can know how to interact with some of the sounds that they hear. It's not like, well, now I'm a lone wolf in the middle of a really deep, dark, evil forest, you know? So any questions on that?
I have a very stupid question. How does the image get up on that screen?
The image gets up on the screen, and it's funny because I used to run this piece on 2 laptops and some outboard gear, and the image used to get on the screen on my second laptop. But Esther wanted to take this to Greece, and I couldn't come with her to Greece, so I had to find a way of getting this piece to someone else. You know, it's just same way somebody might email like just sheet music to someone and say, hey, okay, go play my piece. So I had to really build out some of the things that I was using on the outboard gear and also on the second programs into one laptop. I ended up condensing what was on 2 laptops and some outboard gear into just one folder that I emailed to a person. They put it on their computer and they can press play. And the screen, there's something within the program that pings the projector and then pings back. So then it finds the projector immediately, and then...
Where is the projector?
Oh, it's behind the screen for this one. So it's rear projection. And basically it takes this square, which is the screen, and it puts it on the second screen. So then it has 1 screen, 2 screen. And that's all built into the program. So as soon as you open the program, it finds the second screen, and it measures out the pixels and the length, the height, and everything.
But it isn't connected, though. I don't see...
Oh yeah, there's a VGA cable secretly going behind the curtain. That's the magic of this stuff, really. You know, the hidden... So yes, there's a VGA cable. I mean, maybe one day we can do wireless VGA, but for today, we're doing a wired VGA cable into the projector, and that's how those visuals get onto the screen, through the VGA output, which comes out of 1 laptop, and the sound, which comes out of 1 laptop. So this folder I can send to anyone who wants to perform it, and they can basically open it up. And I've set it up where before I used to actually operate everything on the fly, but since I was sending it to Corfu, I ended up automating a lot of things, so I just press 1 button and then it goes. So then everything that I would have done myself in real time, it gets all automated through times sequence. So when it hits 2 minutes, it does this. When it hits like 7 minutes, the bird pops up at the end and it has this function, you know, where the beak is mapped to, you know, how loud Esther plays. So that was something she was really interested in getting, and I had to be creative with it because
I wanted to control the bird's mouth by how I played. I really wanted, so I said, Izzi, create this miracle, let me control this bird's mouth, because it was so awesome to play with this receive thing. But how did you do it, Izzi?
So the bird in time goes like this. So in the video, it goes like this in time. So then I ended up mapping time to amplitude, so that as she goes up, she's actually, Esther goes up, she's scrubbing the visuals to make the mouth open and close. So that's another element of what was inside the program. And I initially had so many different things happening, but when I had to send it out, I really had to cut a lot out, which wasn't being used, and trim it down to the kind of point where it could just fit in 1 folder, run on 1 laptop, 1 button, ready to go, set up 5 minutes. And these are like performance kind of kind of practices for computer music, and it's something that you would run into a lot. You know, you're performing this kind of material outside. It's like I have 5 minutes to set up, so how do I get this up and running? You know, and with 2 laptops, it used to take me maybe about 20 minutes to set up, and then sound check, and then video check. With this, everything's mapped. Everything's ready to go. 1, 2.
What about 3D?
3D? Well, this is in 3-dimensional.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in XYZ plane. So this is an OpenGL, and it's in 3 dimensions. But to get it in real 3D, I think this would look like if it was over you and if it was rotated through you.
Like the
I'd
music
love
does.
to, if anyone.
Yes.
The sound is rotating around
Yes.
you, and it'll be great for the images.
And actually, I know Rowan did a piece. He's also on the program, but he did a piece with words, that kind of words in 3D. So plot words, and he had 2 projectors set up in the back and 2 projectors set up in the front, and somehow they crossed to create these 3D words that kind of popped in and out, and it was really cool. I should probably talk to him a little bit more about how he did that. With Eric Singer. Anyone ever heard of Eric Singer? He's he invented the guitar bot. Anybody familiar with the guitar bot? He works with Beamer, and I do believe that he worked on the visuals for that with okay.
To what degree is the electronic music portion pre-recorded as opposed to being triggered by the clarinet?
So there is this base set of music, which is just this foundation that happens from 0 to I do believe like around 9 minutes, and that's set. There are a lot of things that I was kind of like hashing out in that process of before I preset it to kind of trigger them per state, but then you kind of like after a while say, well, I want it to happen exactly the same way every single time, and then you kind of start to work away from that idea, and then you want to fix something, you know, especially if you're composing, you start to like fix things in certain places. But then the electronics that, the process that happens with Esther, that all happens with variation and in real time. So as she's being processed, it kind of blends within the score. So then you start to lose track of where Esther begins and ends. And then it almost feels as though everything's kind of being created on the spot.
From a performance point of view, you know, unless I would put the reverb pedal down and just max it out, it's very hard to sustain a longer than a 9-minute piece in which I have to generate absolutely every single thing, especially when I'm doing techniques that are very hard. They're extended techniques. It's not like playing traditional music, which is also very, very hard if you're playing a 9-minute solo work. But to generate everything, to think ahead and to think, for me the most exciting thing is having interaction in real time. And it does, I love having a bass that he's done so incredibly well that, as you said, you literally can't tell, you know, where it starts and where it ends because it's so spherically awesome the way that he's composed it. But I think the highlight for performers who enjoy working in electronic music settings is to play with interactive programs in real time because you become a co-composer. Then you become the composer with the composer. It involves you totally and very differently. And it interests me more than any other kind of playing in terms of the interaction with the creation of the piece. But also to go a bit further than just, I do a lot of works with live sound processing, but I don't have a lot of works where I get to interact with the video and really have what I play input into the video. And so as a performer, not only am I working with the sound, but I'm very, very much impressed by what's going on with the video. It's importing into my mind what I want to play, what I want to make happen next, how I want the video to look, and it just shatters the sound. I mean, it's just so many things that would have to play with it forever to figure out, how, you know, to really create a video that I wanted to create with it, because the potential is phenomenal. But it's the most fun piece I've truly ever played in terms of electronic music. It's just really fun to play. And it's, besides all that, you get to work with the bird's mouth. And I mean, who would have ever thought, you know, you could open a bird's mouth and come up without video. Oh, that was so cool. And I give Izzi the credit. It's just amazing, because he worked with me in the music ensemble at NYU and created several works for the music ensemble. But this was just my favorite idea of all things that he had ever done. Why don't we have Jake come up and have a little bit of experimentation with this and see what happens. Jake, just play a little bit and you'll see what happens with the video. Just whatever like that. Just give it a little deeper, how long you want it. But do it without first you see what you're triggering. So you see the video and listen so you hear the sound, how you're triggering that. Okay?
So Jay,
And
I'm going to start
nothing
it,
skipping.
and when you want to turn on the pedal, you just click the first one. Number one.
So I'm going to be playing and then pedal.
Yeah, whatever you want. Jake, you can also play it like.
Too loud.
Oh, that's part of the piece.
That remember we were talking about the bass that we created, because I didn't want to have to generate every single sound. I wanted to be freer. Because from a compositional point of view, because you become a composer now, so structure of the piece. I love the freedom it gives me by not having to generate the entire score, so that I have more freedom to work with video, more freedom to work with sound effects. Obviously, knowing the score, knowing the potential, knowing the sound effects, knowing the visual effects. It is incredible when you blow really loudly and I see it shatter in a way that I've never seen it shatter with the clarinet. When that just breaks apart completely, that is amazing, Jack. See, that I can't do it with clarinet. It's very different. Like, remember when it just sort of shredded out like a very thin spider? That was cool. Isn't it fascinating to do it?
Yeah, and it's interesting because every instrument has a different range.
On the clarinet. Very different effect. So why would the parameters permit it to be so different? Did you explain how you created so that why a trumpet sound and a clarinet sound would generate completely different images visually?
Right. I mean, the program's set up to be open for almost any instrument, specifically best with flute and clarinet. But other instruments have different ranges, so different ranges respond differently, within the program. So if Jake plays a really low note and he just does a glissando all the way up to his highest note, you might see a lot of different things that will happen differently than another instrument doing the same exact thing. And also the timbres are different, so it changes a lot of those bottom three, harmonics, which are playing with the visuals. So, I mean, those things are being mapped to the visuals, and they change based on the instrument. So then it becomes unique to the instrument at that time. You'll hear notes within the piece as well, and they serve as like guides for like the tonality of the piece, because within the metal scraping there are chords that come out.
Right, so the
Trouble
pigeon,
with for me, with electronic music has always been that it's two speakers looking at you.
Right.
And it's very static.
Right.
And even if the sounds are terribly interesting, there's not the human element involved. There's not the drama of that.
but
And this solves all those problems.
yes, it does.
That's
It's so awesome.
wonderful.
I'm so glad. I wanted to show my dear friend. Your teacher is one of my closest and oldest friends and dearest friends. So I wanted to bring Izzy and show him this new piece. It's like my new toy. I want to take it and show it. But I think it does. I mean, it's a unique piece. Students love it wherever we take it. It is so much fun to play it. But also, as he's talking about the pitches that occur in the score, it gives you, when I work with fixed media scores, which are electronic fixed pieces, not interactive real-time pieces, which is the new term for a tape piece, the old tape piece, now called fixed media works. You have all kinds of sounds in the scores themselves that you can reach in, play it, grab it, pull it out. So when I improvise or I play scores with electronic just tape pieces, fixed media pieces, you have a kind of simulated interaction in real time, because you're really grabbing what's in there and pulling it out, taking it, repeating it, and trying to make it spherical so it sounds like there's some kind of interaction, so that to avoid exactly what you're talking about, that stagnicity. He ran off to get some toys for us so we could see what it sounds like with mutes. So
And also, like, part of the visuals
hear
is
that. Interesting.
given the sound of body, because I think the problem within electronic music a lot of times is that you're sitting in a room, a dark room, with two speakers, but then how does that sound have a body, and what kind of body does it have? And I think given this kind of piece, you're given the sound of real-time body, as well as you're given it of the real-time performer, which creates a lot of like these dramatic elements that happen when you're watching a musical performance, and it's out of performance practice. And I came up with upright and electric bass, and from that I played a lot of jazz, and then I started getting into electronic music, and this is how a lot of that kind of started to develop within my head. How do I give someone the freedom that I have when I take a solo, which is like my favorite part of playing a jazz tune, after I'm walking 4/4 the whole time, and then they're like, Izzy, solo, and then I take my solo, and how do I take my favorite parts out of that kind of music and then make something that's my own? And how do I give some of those people the same experience that like I enjoy within music? And how do I give a performer that kind of enjoyment, you know, that kind of wonderful, you know, feeling? And I think pieces are important that, you know, the performers love to play them, because when you create a piece, if someone loves to perform it, it gets performed. Like if somebody loves your string quartet will get performed. But if no one likes your string quartet, no one will perform it. As opposed, so I was thinking a lot about that with this. You know, what is the enjoyment for the performer? You know, where does that enjoyment come from? And why would someone want to perform this piece of mine? You know, because it has a value, because it has some of these elements that I was interested in developing.
Do you have a patent on this now?
No, I don't.
You really should, because I think it's something, you know, I think there's a future for this.
Awesome. I'm hoping that, you know, that composers, you know, address some of these issues that happen in electronic music. Oftentimes, when people do perform electronic music, it's what is the performance practice behind it? Is it just the laptop that you can perform with? And I'm also interested in augmented controllers. I made this device called a bass sleeve. It was recently published in NIME, New Basis for Musical Expression. And what this device does is that it maps my knee and my foot to processing on the laptop, which gets me away from the laptop and more on my bass, because a lot of times you use two hands to control your bass and you use two hands to control the laptop. So there's that gesture overlap. How do we work beyond that and work beyond the interface of what most people are using for electronic music right now, which is the laptop?